Sheriff's office!
It was a quiet Monday morning in Clay County, Tennessee, the kind of morning where the dew still clings to the grass and the air smells of damp earth and pine needles. The sun was just beginning to burn through the mist that blanketed the rolling hills. In a modest single-story home at the end of a gravel driveway, the Miller family was starting their day. Robert Miller, a 42-year-old mechanic, had already left for work. His wife, Sarah, was visiting her sister in Nashville. Their 4 children were at school, their backpacks hanging empty on the hooks by the door. The house was silent, save for the rhythmic hum of the refrigerator and the occasional soft thud of paws on hardwood. Luna, the family's 3-year-old Belgian Malinois, was patrolling her domain. She was a sleek, intelligent animal, trained to protect but also to love. She moved through the living room, checking the windows, her ears perked for any sound that didn't belong. She was the guardian of this empty castle, and she took her job seriously. But at 10:45 a.m., the silence was broken. A car pulled into the driveway, the crunch of gravel announcing an arrival. Deputy James Thorne of the Clay County Sheriff's Office stepped out of his patrol vehicle. He was there to serve civil papers, a routine task, the kind of mundane duty that fills the days of rural law enforcement. There was no emergency. There was no 911 call. There was no warrant, just a stack of paperwork and a deputy who decided to take a shortcut through the Constitution. What followed was a tragedy that would shatter a family, expose a terrifying gap in police accountability, and force us all to ask, how safe are we in our own homes when the people sworn to protect us decide that the rules don't apply to them? Before we walk through the body cam footage, or rather the lack thereof, and the disturbing events of that morning, I want to welcome you to the channel. We tell stories here about the moments when the system breaks and how ordinary people pay the price. If you believe that your home should be your sanctuary, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this story ends. Deputy Thorne walked up the concrete path to the front porch. He adjusted his belt, the leather creaking in the quiet morning air. He wasn't expecting trouble. He was expecting to tape a notice to a door and leave. He knocked. 3 sharp raps on the storm door. "Sheriff's office," he called out. "Anyone home?" Silence. Thorne peered through the glass of the storm door. The inner wooden door was open, maybe 6 inches. It wasn't uncommon in this part of the country, where people trusted their neighbors and enjoyed the breeze. But to Thorne, that sliver of open space was an invitation, or perhaps an excuse. Later in his report, Thorne would write that the interior of the home was very clearly visible, and that the open door gave him concern for the welfare of the occupants. He would claim he suspected a break-in. But let's look at the facts. There were no broken windows. There were no signs of forced entry. There was no screaming, no alarm ringing, just a door left slightly ajar on a nice day. Thorne pulled the storm door open. He didn't call for backup. He didn't call dispatch to report a possible burglary in progress. He simply unholstered his service weapon, a Glock 17, and stepped across the threshold. "Sheriff's office," he yelled again, his voice echoing in the empty hallway. Immediately, the sound of claws scrambling on wood erupted from the back of the house. Luna had heard the intruder. Thorne would later claim he didn't hear the dog until it was right on top of him. But the home security audio tells a different story. From the moment Thorne's boot hit the floorboard, Luna was barking, a deep warning bark that said, "Get out." Thorne moved deeper into the house, gun drawn. He passed the living room, past the kitchen. He was hunting for a threat he had manufactured in his own mind. And then he found her. Luna came around the corner of the hallway. She wasn't attacking. She was posturing. She was standing her ground in her own home, barking at the stranger with a gun who had just invaded her space. Thorne didn't hesitate. He didn't try to retreat. He didn't use pepper spray. He didn't use a taser. He fired. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots rang out in the confined space of the hallway. The sound was deafening. Luna yelped, a high, piercing sound of pain and confusion, and then fell silent. Thorne stood there for a moment, the smell of gunpowder filling the air. The silence that followed was heavier than before. "Sheriff's office," he called out again, his voice shaking slightly. "Anyone home?" No answer. Just the silence of a house where life had been extinguished. Thorne holstered his weapon. He didn't check on the dog. He didn't call a vet. He walked back out of the front door, into the sunshine, and keyed his radio. "Dispatch, shots fired. Aggressive animal. 1 down. Send backup. We need to pause here and reflect on what just happened. A government agent entered a private home without a warrant, without an emergency, and killed a beloved family pet within seconds. The Fourth Amendment protects us against unreasonable searches and seizures. Entering a home because a door is cracked open with no other signs of distress is the definition of unreasonable. If you are a dog owner or just a homeowner, this should terrify you. Let me know in the comments. What would you do if you came home to find this? Within 10 minutes, the quiet street was filled with flashing lights. 4 more deputies arrived, followed by a sergeant. They parked on the lawn, blocking the driveway. Thorne met them in the yard. He was visibly shaken, pacing back and forth. "It came right at me," Thorne told the sergeant, gesturing with his hands to show the size of the dog. "Big Malinois came around the corner. I had no choice." "You good?" the sergeant asked. "Yeah, just shook up," Thorne said. "Didn't break the skin, but it lunged." "Why did you go in?" another deputy asked, looking at the house. "Door was open," Thorne said quickly. "Lights were on. I knocked. No answer. Thought maybe someone was hurt or it was a B&E." The deputies nodded. They accepted the narrative immediately. It's a phenomenon known as noble cause corruption. The belief that because they are the good guys, their actions must be justified, even when they break the rules. "All right," the sergeant said. "Let's clear the house. Make sure nobody's actually in there." This is where the tragedy turns into a farce. Instead of securing the scene and calling the homeowners, whose contact info was on the very papers Thorne was trying to serve, the deputies decided to treat the house like a crime scene where they were the victims. They re-entered the home, 5 of them this time. They stepped over Luna's body in the hallway. They walked through the kitchen, the living room, the bedrooms. Clear left. Clear right. They checked the closets. They checked under the beds. "House looks lived in," one deputy commented, looking at a pile of laundry on the sofa. "Maybe a little messy. Could be a sign of a struggle. Or maybe they just have kids," another deputy muttered. In the background, the washing machine was humming. The burglar had apparently stopped to do a load of whites. They went out the back door into the yard. They checked the shed. They checked the garage. They spent 45 minutes roaming through the Miller family's property, guns out, searching for a phantom intruder that didn't exist. And the whole time, they never picked up the phone to call Robert or Sarah. Finally, after nearly an hour, a neighbor walked over to the police line. "That's the Miller house," the neighbor told the sergeant. "They're at work and school." "What happened?" "There was an incident," the sergeant said vaguely. "We're handling it." Eventually, they realized they couldn't stay there forever. They taped off the front door, they left a note, and they drove away, leaving Luna's body on the floor for the family to find. Robert Miller arrived home at 4:30 p.m. He saw the tape on the door first, then he saw the note, "Contact sheriff's office immediately." His stomach dropped. He fumbled with his keys, his hands shaking. He opened the door. The smell hit him first, then the silence. Luna always greeted him at the door. "Luna," he called out. "Luna!" He found her in the hallway. The grief that followed is something no family should have to endure. Robert fell to his knees. He called Sarah, sobbing so hard she couldn't understand him. He called the kids' school and told them not to come home yet. That night, the house was filled with tears. But by the next morning, the tears had turned to rage. Robert went to the sheriff's office. He demanded answers. "Why was he in my house?" Robert asked the sheriff, a man named Bill Carter. "Why did he shoot my dog?" "Deputy Thorne acted within policy," Sheriff Carter said, his face a mask of bureaucratic indifference. "The door was open. He suspected a crime. The dog attacked. He defended himself." "My door was cracked because the latch sticks," Robert yelled. "That doesn't give you the right to invade my home. We've investigated ourselves," the sheriff said, reciting the line that has become a punchline in American policing. "And we found no wrongdoing. Deputy Thorne will remain on duty." The family was devastated. They felt powerless. But they weren't alone. They requested the body cam footage. The sheriff refused, citing an ongoing investigation. So Robert requested his own home security footage. The video showed Thorne walking up to the door. It showed him pulling his gun before he entered. It recorded the sound of Luna barking immediately, contradicting Thorne's claim that she was silent until she attacked. It recorded the shots, and it recorded the 45 minutes of warrantless searching that followed. Robert released the video to the local news. The public reaction was explosive. People were horrified. Justice for Luna signs appeared in yards all over the county. The sheriff's phone lines were jammed with angry calls, but the sheriff dug in. He released a statement doubling down on the open door policy. "Our deputies are trained to investigate suspicious circumstances," the statement read. "An open door is a sign of potential danger. We will not apologize for being proactive." It was a slap in the face to every homeowner in the county. It was a declaration that your privacy means nothing if a deputy feels suspicious. The Millers hired an attorney. They filed a federal lawsuit alleging violations of the Fourth Amendment, unlawful entry, and the 14th Amendment, deprivation of property without due process. The legal battle dragged on for 2 years. The county fought tooth and nail. They argued qualified immunity, the legal doctrine that shields officials from liability unless they violate clearly established rights. Their argument was absurd. It wasn't clearly established that entering a home with an open door to check for burglars was illegal, but the judge didn't buy it. In a blistering ruling, the court stated, "The sanctity of the home is the very core of the Fourth Amendment. A cracked door does not waive the Constitution. A reasonable officer would know that entering a private home without a warrant, consent, or a true emergency is a violation of rights." The county settled the lawsuit for $300,000. It was a victory, but a hollow one. The money couldn't bring Luna back. It couldn't erase the memory of finding her in the hallway. And Deputy Thorne, he's still on the force. He was never disciplined. He never apologized. In fact, he was promoted to corporal last month. This story is a painful reminder of the power imbalance between citizens and the state. We are told that our home is our castle, but to some officers, it's just another building they can enter at will. The Miller family moved away from Clay County. They couldn't stand to live in that house anymore. They couldn't stand to see Deputy Thorne patrol their street, but they left behind a legacy. Their lawsuit forced the sheriff's office to change its policy on welfare checks. Now, deputies must have concrete evidence of distress before entering a home without a warrant. An open door is no longer enough. Luna's death wasn't in vain, but it was unnecessary. It was the result of a culture that prioritizes officer curiosity over citizen rights. What would you have done if you were Robert? Would you have settled, or would you have taken it to trial, risking everything to get a jury verdict? And do you think $300,000 is enough for the life of a family member? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And please, share this video. The more people know their rights, the harder it is for them to be taken away. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, lock your doors, and know your rights. I'll see you in the next one.